It's episode 512 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. I'm your host, Brice Paterik, breaking down today a what-if scenario in 2019. What if all of those, or I guess most, I'm going to go with most of those top 10 things, worst things that I just did on Tuesday's episode. What if those bad things never happened to the Rangers? What if Prince Fielder stayed healthy? What if Jurickson and Profar stayed healthy? What if all these other things? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Brice Paterik, here today breaking down what if scenario, this great what if scenario. What if the Rangers never had all these bad, mean things happen to them? I talked about all what these bad, mean, many things are that have happened to the Rangers that knocked their window of contention clean off after 2016. Go look at Tuesday's episode if you want to see the first part of this series. But thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen of the day. If you aren't already, please go follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and go subscribe on YouTube or wherever the heck you get your podcasts. Now, I'm having some big caveats. There's a reason I did 2019 as opposed to 2021, just because you'll see later. I'll tell you why. There's a very special reason. But the biggest things that I'm undoing the Rangers did in these last 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years, basically since 2012. Basically, I'm undoing the Yu Darvish trade. There's no Yu Darvish. Willie Calhoun is happy as a Dodger and crushing bombs there. Jurickson Profar is healthy. He is living his best life. He is smiling his beautiful smiles for the Texas Rangers, and things worked out there just like I wanted them to. Prince Fielder finds some miracle cure, and his neck is healthy as ever, and his major league career is not cut short, and he is doing great things still with the Texas Rangers. Now, also, we'll get into the last thing that I fixed, but I'm looking at what this roster would look like in 2019 if that team would be good enough to actually compete for the division and do anything close to competing in what would have probably been the last year of a certain player that I'm getting to in just a second. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just projecting the roster of talking about who is what age and all that good stuff. I did a whole 25, I think I did 26 man roster. I cheated a little bit. Whatever, this is my podcast. I'm allowed to cheat if I want to because I make the rules and you don't. If you don't like them, go to another podcast or make your own podcast or I don't know, file a petition or something. Anyway, let's get into it, projecting what that 2019 thing Rangers roster would look like if everything was nice in a perfect world or a little bit nicer than the actual cruel world that the Rangers have been subjected to for the last 10 years. Anyway, at catcher, we have Jonathan Lucroy. He lives up to his all-star potential, or at least a little bit of that. He'd be 33 at this time. He say he has around 800 OPS, still providing that great defense at catcher. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and we're not mad. Robinson Trevino is maybe still there. Maybe he's on another team, thriving and striving like he did in real life, and things are nice and beautiful. And that's all well and good, and we're all very happy about it, and things look nice. Then we have Nomar Mazara. At age 24, he's been in the big leagues a few years. He's really starting to find his stride. He's hitting around 25 to 30 bombs a year with an OPS around 850. Being that, prototypical middle of the lineup hitter, his defense wasn't quite good enough to stick in the outfield, so he moves to first base. That's okay. We're fine with it because his bat is so important in this lineup, and he definitely lives up to his potential and doesn't completely fall on his face and perplex everybody, scouts, prospect evaluators, GMs, casual baseball fans, of why the heck did this guy not get anywhere close to living up to his potential. And things are happy, and I'm happy, and Rangers fans are happy, and Nomar Mazara is happy, and even his very strict Dominican Navy Admiral father is very proud and even smiles once because he's very proud and things are going well. That would be nice. That'd be really nice. There you go. We're already at catcher and first baseman. We've got two premium middle of the order bats that are absolutely crushing it, and everything's great and wonderful and perfect. Things are looking great right now. things are looking really great. It's a very positive time for the Rangers. Now let's look at second base. We have Rougned Odor. Let's look at let's back up. Let's look a little bit at what this actual 2019 team was. Here's the actual starting lineups per se. Jeff Mathis at catcher, Ronald Guzman at first, Rougned Odor second, Elvis at short as Drupal Cabrera, third base, Willie Calhoun in left field, Delino in center, Nomar in right, and Shin-Soo Choo at DH. Yeah, we're already a little bit better than that at this point. We have a rookie who, in this timeline, in the actual timeline, had a 721 OPS at second base. In this timeline, he progresses, has a 780 OPS, about where he had his best season the season before. Walks a little bit more, maybe a little bit less power. Doesn't quite have the 30 home run season. Has 20 to 25, and that's okay because he has an on base that's higher than the 283 that he had that year. Has a batting average higher than 205. Not that I care about the batting average. If the on base is somewhere in the 320-ish range, be very happy with that from rookie. Power can fall off a little bit, but the glove starts to figure itself out. I don't know what happened to Elvis in this scenario, but he is not there. He has gone on to the Yankees like we thought for so many years that he would, and he is thriving there, and he is happy, and Scott Boras is happy because Elvis is getting a lot of money, and maybe I switched that up. No, I'm going with the scenario. I have created it. I stick with it. Not everything is going to be perfect, but that's okay. That's okay in this scenario that not everything is perfect because more things are a little bit more perfect than I thought. But at this point, Rougned Odor was 25 in 2019 and still with the Rangers. Same with Mazzara, but I'm just having them be a little bit better than they were, or just how we expected them to be. Just not even like 100 percentile. Not like, oh yeah, Nomar Mazzara is crushing. He hits 40 home runs a season. He's in the 95th percentile of what we ever thought he would be. He's an all-star and MVP candidate, and he's just destroying records left and right. No, just a fine, pretty good middle-of-the-order bat. Maybe he's like hitting sixth because everyone else is so good. I don't know. This is a nice, beautiful world that I've created, so I get to write the rules because this is a safe space for Rangers fans who have been hurt a whole lot by the sport of baseball and injuries and bad luck and other mean things over the past several years. So this is a nice imaginary world you can come back to and live in if the Rangers are still mediocre or have a losing record next year, which might happen. It still could happen. But you can revisit this nice little world and pretend that everything is nice. And at shortstop, we have a 26-year-old Jurickson Profar in his prime, hitting 25 home runs this season, playing amazing defense. He's hitting 300. His on base is 380. He's just crushing it. He's great at stealing bases, has a 30-30 season. Maybe this year, maybe it's next year, but he is just thriving, and he is so happy, and he has that beautiful smile. And everything's nice and gorgeous, and there's butterflies flying around, and things are good. And things are really good. And you know what? You know what else is good? Stance socks. Yeah, Stance apparel. Not just their socks, their whole apparel, their whole wardrobe. Founded in 2009, Stance apparel represents a radical reinvention of socks, underwear, and active apparel with a sharp focus on comfort, quality, and creativity. Stance brings atypical aesthetic alongside some of pop culture's hottest collaborations for the ultimate experience in style and self-expression. Because everything you wear should be a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. They've got all kinds of creative stuff, all kinds of great designs. They partner with Star Wars, the NBA, Major League Baseball, Harry Potter, The Office, like just all kinds of great stuff. And Stance believes in the perfect fit. It matters more than fitting in. That those who feel good, do good. So go see for yourself, register for an account at stance.com. Get the 15% off your first purchase by using the promo code LOCKEDON and apply that at checkout. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. But we're talking about things that are great. We're talking about really great things. And you know what's incredibly great? Just delightfully great? Besides that? No, I'm not going into another ad read. I'm talking about Adrian freaking Beltran. At this point, the Rangers will have had these several good players doing great things and staying healthy and everything being nice and wonderful and butterflies and all that good stuff. And he doesn't retire after 2018. He doesn't do that. What he does is he stays on one more year. He gives it one more year at age 40 to prove the haters wrong. Has a mediocre Beltran season, an 850 OPS, a little bit better than he did. He feels a little bit healthier because things are nice and breezy and all that good stuff. Plays in about 100 20 games in his final year, has his send-off tour. Everyone loves him, and everything is beautiful. Yeah, age 40 Adrian Beltran could still play. He absolutely still could have played and been an above-average player, even a good player, I think, at age 40. But he didn't want to because the Rangers were going to be bad. They ended up being kind of feisty and fun in 2019, but I understood his decision, and he has not regretted it one bit since, and we love that for him. We are very happy for him in his retirement, going and being a great dad, posting a lot on Instagram about how much he loves his kids and his wife, and, like, just, if you want wholesome content and you love Adrian Beltran, which, like, I feel like most of you should at least subscribe to one of those things, then, like, go follow his Instagram. Like, he hasn't paid me to do this, but it's literally just so delightful and wholesome, him just being a great dad and a great husband and a great family person and not missing baseball. Like, it's such a hard thing for professional athletes to devote their whole lives to one thing and being great at it, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. What the heck do I do with my life? He's like, no, I got a great family, love my family, gonna have so much fun being a dad and embarrassing my kids on Instagram. Like, freaking love that for him. Just so happy. Anyway, in left field, tangent over, we have Shin-Soo Choo. Yes, in this scenario, Shin-Soo Choo is still there. He is 36 at this point. He had a very solid career with the Rangers. People hate on his contract, like they just don't understand the value that he provided. In 2019, he was just coming off after the first time of him being an All-Star. In 2018, he was an All-Star with the Rangers, had a 377 on base and OPS of 810. That year, he had an 826 OPS, a 371 on base, and a 455 slugging percentage, hit 24 home runs that year. He's the Rangers left fielder. He's still playing some decent outfield defense and is fine and well and good, and things are peachy, and people appreciate him and don't just talk about how his contract is very expensive, which he earned and lived up to. And in center field, not making a change here. Not making a change here at all. We got Delano to Shields, his age 26 season. I'm not going to make literally any change. He had a 325 on base that year, slugged 340. Maybe I would like to see him hit, like, I don't know, get a little bit on base more. Played some really valuable defense in center field. A lot of speed to, he will be covering that Shin-Soo Choo, playing a little bit more of the outfield. But that's okay because Delano has got it covered. He had 24 steals that year, 4 home runs, 4 triples, 15 doubles in 118 games. 325 on base. Fine. It's fine. Pretty valuable. And again, I'm not going full. Everything is absolutely beautiful, wonderful, amazing, and perfect. So I'm keeping Delano because I like Delano. And this is the world that I have created. It is still a much better world than the actual 2019 team. There was some really great Hunter Pence moments there. And Danny Santana weirdly being just stupid good for like the one time in his career. Like that was fun. The first year of this podcast, I have some very fond memories attached to that season. More so the pitchers and the bullpen, but we'll get into that. We're still on the lineup and what it looks like. That year, in 2019, we have a 25-year-old Joey Gallo who blossoms out of his shell, spreads forth like the eagle in flight that he was. He only played in 70 games that year. I'm making him healthy. He had a 986 OPS that year, a 389 on base, slugged 598, hit 22 home runs in just 70 games. We're going to expand that to 140 that he plays. We double that. He has a 44 home run season. Is wonderful, beautiful, gets MVP votes, and is the special unicorn that he is, and everything is happy, and he's making Adrian Beltran proud, and he's also making his DH proud. But you know who his DH is? Like, why do we have Shin-Soo Choo at 36 playing the field? Well, that's because Prince Fielder is there, and he's healthy, and he's smiling as well. So many beautiful smiles on the team. Can you imagine a team, a good team full of Prince Fielder, Joey Gallo, and Jurickson, Profar, and Adrian Beltran? That smile power could light up literally the entire sun. Like, just the infectious joy that all those guys bring to baseball. Profar still brings it to baseball, so does Joey, and Adrian Beltran is bringing it to being a dad, as I'm sure Prince Fielder is as well. But Prince Fielder's neck is healed. He has a mediocre middle-of-the-road season for him, an 887 OPS. Hits 30 home runs that season in the meat of your lineup, and it's great, and it's glorious, and the Rangers offense is dangerous and deadly as ever. Your bench looks pretty good. Prince would be 35 at that point, so still about the tail end of his peak would be about when that it was. He'd still be hitting bombs and getting on base at a stupid high rate, and I would have loved to see that on that 2019 Rangers team instead of what actually happened. For the bench, let's fill out these position players. We've got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at age 24, playing utility defense, being everywhere, doing everything, being great, giving Adrian Beltran some days off, giving Profar a couple days off his feet, same with Rugi, and whoever needs it, he is there, and he is crushing it, and he is just living life and loving it. We have Jose Trevino, a 26-year-old Jose Trevino, as the backup catcher. At this point, he is, again, crushing it, living life, and doing amazing things. But he also has that walk-off on his first Father's Day as a dad, and his first Father's Day without his dad on that Father's Day as well. And it means more because the Rangers are actually in the thick of things, and they need that big moment from him. And I would never take that away from him because it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. One of my favorite moments of this Rangers team since I've been doing this podcast in 2019. Then we have Drew Robinson, who everything goes well for. Everything has ended up okay with Drew Robinson. If you don't know Drew Robinson's story, it's a very powerful one. It's a very impactful one about struggles with depression and suicide, and you need to go look at ESPN's Jeff Passan's article about it. They did a 30 for 30. It was incredibly powerful. He just retired from baseball after attempting to take his own life, and in this happy scenario, he got the help that he needed before it was to a point where it got to, and he is on this Rangers team and crushing it as a utility guy with that power, playing all different positions. He's a really stinking good baseball player. At age 27, he would be in this scenario. And then the other outfield bat, we have Lewis Brinson, age 25, a guy who just, I believe, got waived by the Miami Marlins, his hometown team he ended up with. And I guess in this scenario, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe we cross off Lewis Brinson because technically he was in the Jonathan Lucroy trade. So if I'm making that, then I can't keep him as well. So we'll cross him off. We'll just have a thrman bench of IKF, Jose Trevino, and Drew Robinson. Now, that is a pretty decent bench, a pretty versatile bench, and I would take a bet that offense is pretty good. But you know where you would go if you're trying to make bets on sports? That's right, you go to betonline.ag. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. You want to bet that baseball is going to be a lot meaner to you than I am in this fake scenario? You could probably place a bet on that. I don't know how you would do that, but you could do it somewhere, and it'd be at BetOnline. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, I've gone through the lineup, I've gone through the bench in this wonderful, beautiful scenario where the Rangers are winning in 2019. Now, let's take a look at the pitching side. There are a few more things that I'm keeping here that maybe might not have happened, but screw it, I'm allowed to play by my own rules. Loose and fast, who cares? Because this is my podcast again. So if you don't like it, then I don't know why you're still here after 20 minutes of podcasting. But, I thank you anyway. I really appreciate it. But anyway, let's look at this rotation, what it would look like in 2019 if things were easy, breezy, beautiful, just like CoverGirl says that they should be. Leading this rotation, there is Yu Darvish. CoverGirl doesn't sponsor the podcast, but if they want to, just hit me up. I don't know. I don't use CoverGirl, but maybe just send me some cash or Venmo me, whatever. Anyway, Yu Darvish is leading this rotation in 2019 of a team that is good and wonderful and delightful. The Rangers don't trade him at midseason in 2017 because it looks like they're about to be on the tank. He had an all-star season in 2017. He was a four-time all-star with the Texas Rangers and missed the 2015 season because of Tommy John surgery. Came back towards the back half of 2016, which is the only reason why he wasn't an all-star in 2016. So he was an all-star every year with the Rangers. He made the all-star team this year and completely fell off with the Padres towards the back half of the season. But in this scenario, he is a Texas Ranger through and through for the entire time, and Rangers fans appreciate him and are nice to him and don't give a crap about some stupid shutdown inning thing that they just made up just to be mean to Yu Darvish because they don't like him and don't appreciate him or understand how incredibly dominant he is. In 2019, with the Chicago Cubs, didn't have a super great season. It was better than his first season in Chicago, where things really didn't go well. But in 2019, he had a 3.93 ERA in 31 starts, 178.2 innings, 229 strikeouts that year, ERA plus of 111. Now, the next year, he was absolutely fantastic. Should have won the Cy Young. I will die on that hill again and again and again. The shortened 2020 season had 12 starts, a 2.01 ERA, 76 innings, 93 strikeouts, a 2.24 ERA plus. Finished second in the Cy Young, top 15 in MVP voting. Would have been an All-Star if there was an All-Star game. And, we're going to use something like that of him doing that to, measure what he would do, because he wouldn't have gone to the Dodgers and wouldn't have had his confidence shaken because the Astros are dirty cheaters and, made him think that he was tipping his pitches and therefore basically ruined his 2018 season by blowing out his confidence, thinking, I don't know what I'm even freaking doing. Also, injuries kind of shortened the 2018 season as well for him. Things just did not go well for him because he went to the Dodgers. So in this happy scenario, he is staying in Texas with his pups, and things are lovely and wonderful and beautiful and bright. Now, the 2019 season did have some high moments for the Rangers. Obviously, it had Joey Gallo's coming out party. It had Hunter Pence being a lot of fun while he was still here. It had Danny Santana doing some pretty nice, fun things. It has the most healthy that Willie Calhoun has been in his major league career for a short time. So only 83 games. But, the real bright spots were the pitchers. Mike Minor and Lance Lynn absolutely coming in and crushing it. Just crushing it that year. Mike Minor was fantastic, so he's going to be the number 2 in this rotation. His age 31 season. Had a 3.59 ERA, pitched in 208 and third innings. Also got his 200 strikeout while talking trash to a Boston beat writer about, who cares? Who cares? I cared because he was fantastic that year. He was an All-Star that year. His only time that he's been an All-Star, finished top 10 in Cy Young voting. Was just so dang good for the Rangers. After being pretty fine the year before, Lance Lynn came in and was fantastic again as well. Didn't make an All-Star team that year, but was still a super workhorse. 208 in the third innings, 241 strikeouts, an ERA plus of 141. The guy was just a hoss, a 3.67 ERA, which his FIP was a little bit lower than that. His fielding independent pitching, so he didn't walk that many people, didn't give up that many home runs, but did strike out a crap ton. He is the number 3 in this scenario. This is just a stupid good team already. You got PQ Darvish, you've got Mike Minor at his true peak, Lance Lynn coming in and crushing it, and then, Lance Lynn 32, and is just, man, if we didn't waste those 2 great seasons by those 2 pitchers on a mediocre Rangers team, gosh, that would have been so much fun. That would have been so much fun. We already got a top 3 that are all All-Star worthy, and this next guy was All-Star worthy for several years, made 4 All-Star teams, got Cy Young votes in several years, also won a World Series MVP and an NLCS MVP, won a World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies. That's right, Cole Hamels is still here in this wonderful, beautiful scenario. He is getting towards the back half of his career at this point. In 2019, in his age 35 season, he pitched for the Cubs in 27 games. That's 141 and 2/3 innings, 143 strikeouts, a 3.81 ERA. Towards the back half of 2018, he had a 2.36 ERA in 12 starts, 76 innings, and 74 strikeouts with the Cubs after the Rangers traded him for Eddie Butler and some other. I think it might have been just Eddie Butler and somebody else. I saw Eddie Butler on one of the top 100 lists as I was doing research to see what people said about Jurickson Profar in his prime. And I saw Eddie Butler there and just had a little bit of a mini rage stroke just thinking about him being the return for Cole Hamels and him doing so well with the Cubs. But in this scenario, he doesn't fall off in the beginning of 2018 or a little bit in in 2017 either, because the Rangers are contenders throughout all of it. And he's still great. And he's still, I guess he's fallen off a little bit in this scenario because he is the number 4 at this point, and things are nice and wonderful and good. And then at the end of this rotation, we have Chichi Gonzalez being a fine number 5 starter. He doesn't forget how to throw a slider. He's fine. He's good. At this point, he'd be 27. In his prime, being pretty good as a 5th starter. Probably would move into the bullpen for the playoffs because all 4 of those guys are absolute workhorses who know how to pitch in big scenarios. And I believe 2 of them have World Series rings. In this case, hopefully all of them would get World Series rings because the Rangers would be World Series contenders at this point and would have been for basically the entire time since 2010. They wouldn't have dropped off in 2019. It'd be literally a whole decade of dominance. Now let's look at what the pen would look like in this scenario. You have Jose Leclerc at age 25, who was truly slinging it, got roughed up a little bit, so his ERA numbers didn't look as good as they were. His ERA plus was 120 that year. His actual ERA was 433. He had 14 saves in 68 and 2/3 innings, 100 strikeouts in that span. Just really, really dominant at that point. You also have Emmanuel Clase at age 21, throwing his 102 mile an hour cutter, just defying the laws of physics, laughing at physics, all the physics professors, and just the concept of physics in general. He is scoffing, mocking openly the thought that, oh, well, if you can throw 100, it can't be a cutter. Cutters top out at like 96 if they're like really good. Mariano Rivera's cutters were, I believe, in like the low to mid 90s. You can't throw a cutter that's 102 miles an hour. Clase says, haha, yes I can. And I am not going to be traded for one whole inning of Corey Kluber. No, not in this scenario, not in this happy world. Or if he was, then Corey Kluber would have been healthy. He would have been the number 5 and just a stupid good rotation. But they wouldn't have made that trade because in this scenario, they still have all these high salary, good players who are performing well, and the Rangers are contending, and they don't know what it's like to be in the doghouse, to have the 2020 and 2021 seasons that they had in real life. In this scenario, things are bright and breezy and wonderful. Now, who else is in this rotation or in this bullpen at this time? I'm going to go ahead and keep Chris Martin there, the 33-year-old from Texas, from Arlington, had a 3.08 ERA at that point in 38 innings that year, struck out 43. Very solid, very serviceable, 169 ERA plus, which is really nice and also really good, and also the best among the Rangers outside of Rafael Montero. Maybe Montero would have been the guy instead of him. I don't know. This is a fake scenario, so I'm keeping it like that. I feel like that's realistic. Also, you have Keone Kela, who had great seasons with the Rangers beforehand. They wouldn't be trading him because they would have needed every bullpen piece that they can get, and he would be nasty and, I don't know, wouldn't have the fights that he did with the Rangers at that time, and would have been crushing it with the Rangers as one of the key guys in their bullpen. They also would have Brett Martin, which they actually had him at this point. Age 24, he had an ERA plus of 109, even though his actual ERA was 476, pitched in 62 and a third innings, struck out 62. The lefty was excellent. Did make some, I want to say spot starts. They weren't really spot starts. They were kind of the opener role. Pitched in 51 games and averaged more than an inning, about an inning and a fifth-ish, if my math is correct. 51 games, 62 and a third innings. That's about 1.2-ish innings per outing, but not 1.2 as in 1 and 2/3. 1.2 as in 1 and a fifth. Whatever. Anyway, last but not least, in that bullpen, you need a long reliever. You need a guy who can, sometimes come in big spots and also sometimes just play mop-up duty. That is Jesse Chavez, who at this point had a really solid season for the Rangers in his age 35 year. Had a 4.85 ERA in 48 games. 9 of those were starts. 5 of those were games finished. He also pitched in 78 innings in 48 games. So he was an actual starter for a little bit when the Rangers needed him to be. ERA plus of 107. The FIP was a little bit higher than that. Strikeouts for 9 were a little bit less than 1 per inning. Gave up a little bit too many home runs, but that's fine. It's fine. He would be in the long relief role, and that's all he would be required to do. And gosh, this team looks stupid good. You have Jonathan Lucroy kind of coming down from his peak. You have Noah Rosara reaching the heights that we all wanted him to. Joey in his all-star year. Adrian Beltran at the end of his prime. Jurickson Profar living up his potential. You also have a Shin-Soo Choo doing some great stuff. Prince Fielder crushing it. Yu Darvish, Mike Miter, Lance Lynn, that top three in 2019 would just oof. With that lineup and that bullpen and that bench, everything is nice, bright, and breezy. I say this Rangers team absolutely contends for the playoffs that year. You had the Astros, who made it to the World Series that year. The Astros were really stinking good. They had Robinson Chirinos doing great things that year. So maybe there's some fuel there that would add it on to the proverbial fire of Jonathan Lucroy being there. They had Gurriel, the same basic lineup that they've had since then. Yordan Alvarez made his major league debut that year, played in 87 games, crushed it. Their rotation was really stinking good with Verlander and Cole at the peak of their powers. They also had Wade Miley as their number 3. The rest of their lineup wasn't super great. Or the rest of their rotation, I should say, was not super great. Didn't have a whole lot of consistent starters. They got Zach Greinke towards the back half of the season. That would have been close, but I think, gosh, that's what I really wish the Rangers had more of, is more of a long time where they and the Astros were good at the same time. That's why 2015 and 16 were so great. But both of those guys have been on the upswing and downswing at different points. And it looks like when the Rangers get back to their upswing, the Astros are going to be bad again. So I'm hoping at some point they can meet in the middle and both be contentious again, because I love to hate the Astros, and it's more fun to beat them when they're good and they have hopes than when they are losing 100 plus games for like 5 straight years or whatever it was when they first got to the AL West. But that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. Thank you so much for indulging me this crazy fantasy scenario. I hope this was as good for you therapeutically as it was for me. Maybe I could just go to therapy instead of, creating fake baseball scenarios, but why not do both? Why not do both? Thank you guys so much for listening to Locked On Rangers. Again, if you haven't already, please go follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and go subscribe on YouTube or wherever the heck you get your podcasts. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.